So Prudence, thank you so much for making time to share your insights into the future of leadership. But before we walk into the future, can you tell us a little bit about your own background? Where did you grow up?
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Nik, and for having me as part of this discussion. So, very good question as an icebreaker where I come from in my hometown. So, I come from a township called Pimville in Soweto, where it is in the Johannesburg space, whereby I grew up with my sibling. My little sister was now 18 years of age, with my late mom as well as grandparents. So that is where I come from. Soweto, very disadvantaged area where a lot of people have little hope as to how to even progress. So with me, I'm just one of the few, the few that actually made it out.
Yeah. And tell us, Prudence, what was your dream career in your early days?
Early days, I had a few, but one of them, I wanted to become a doctor of sorts. I knew I had some healing powers in me through my hands, but what I ended up finding out was I could become a healer of sorts with helping people in a different type of space, which is where I am within the training industry, where we empower and develop the youth of our country to become future leaders.
And tell us who inspired you in those early days?
I would say, remember what I mentioned earlier on around me living in a little bubble within a township. The only people that I could really look up to were the people that were around me in my household. So like my grandmother, being a strong woman like she is, having 6 kids. My mother, who was a resilient woman, who worked very hard throughout her years of existence, but also showed that one can become compassionate and humble when they start getting successes.
And Prudence, looking back over your career, would you say there was a major turning point where things could have gone different?
100%. I remember after matric, as a child, obviously you are looking to your parents to be the ones who would assist you to fulfill your career dream. And I remember showing them my results, having passed really well with my matric, and they could not offer me that opportunity because they did not have the monetary component to take me to varsity. But I remember a month later, me being woken up by my friend saying there is an opportunity that one can get. And it was about 10 kilometers away from home, where they were offering bursary programs. And at that pivotal moment, I could have gone, no, I do not want to go because I do not have the monetary component to be able to walk there. And she said, this was the last day that they're offering these bursaries. And I decided at that moment to take a quick bath and to walk that 10 kilometers, stand in line. And a month later, I did get that bursary opportunity.
Well done. And tell us, what is driving you today?
What is the burning desire that is driving me today? It's the people that surround me, the team members I have as part of my business that I call family, my kids, my little sister, It's the people I think that are surrounding me that are so heavily reliant on me and my successes in order for their successes to also thrive. So I would say definitely the people.
Now, Prudence, looking into the future, and I know it's a big question, but what does the future of leadership mean to you?
Future of leadership, I think it encompasses a variety of components. I think one needs to be not only a leader, but be able to be led as well. being agile in your approach. I think we've seen with COVID-19 hitting us as a world, you know, if you are a stagnant leader and are unable to be flexible in changing your strategies or vision, it will be very hard for you to be alive or kicking or growing your business within the next couple of years.
Now, Prudence, you are building future leaders. Can you tell us, what do you consider most important for building and empowering future leaders?
In order to build a future leader, I would say you need to look at various components. Look at the industry. You need to look at their upbringing. You need to be able to customize various programs. So there is no one size fits all. You need to bring in industry leaders to participate and transfer skills to those individuals. But I also feel that there needs to be a component of accountability for those individuals that are participating in our different programs, training programs. So I think for me, it's a combination of industry, of the individual that's getting the opportunity, but also a lot of soft skills training that is also integrated.
And tell us, Prudence, when you address future leaders, what is it you tell them about social media? How should they handle and navigate social media to build their own brand?
Yeah, very good question right there. So I always say, you know, what you have here as your handset can build you an empire in its entirety. You need to look at social media in a way that can build you as an individual. You need to look at it from a component of monetary being, because you see nowadays a lot of people being TikTokers, participating in various Instagram or Facebook mediums, but making an entrepreneurial aspect and commercial aspect as they move along. So building of followers, as an example, is one way of ensuring that you make means and take advantage of social media. So I think it's a great tool altogether.
Right. And tell us, Prudence, what is your advice for future leaders when it comes to challenges? What are some of the biggest challenges that future leaders should expect to encounter in their career?
That's a very good question, because one challenge that one needs to be aware of is that nothing is set in stone. You know, you need to be mindful that anything can change the manner at which you are running your business, the manner at which you are working as an employee in a brink of a second. So you do need to be socially equitable. You do need to understand what is happening in the country and what is happening in the world and how it impacts you.
And Prudence, if you were to design a curriculum for future leaders, what are some of the new skills you would want to factor in?
I think definitely a human component. I think when we are building different types of curriculums, as an example, we almost forget that there's a human component into building up an individual. We sometimes take technical abilities or technical skills as a form of what needs to be done. However, there's also the underlying components of building up the individual, the presentation skills, how they need to talk in front of people, communication skills, work ethic. So there's, I think, a lot of components around human skills and soft skills.
Now, Prudence, as a mentor to future leaders, can you maybe share a success story or two where you mentored an upcoming leader and that person took your advice to heart?
Most definitely. This is my day-to-day. An example is a learner participating in a program called System with Dynamic DNA. We run various programs, whether it's learnership programs or short skills programs. And they participate in a program and they find that it's getting too hard. And it's getting too steep. And they came to me and had discussed their various challenges, including the monetary component of them still not being able to travel, even though they're getting a certain allowance, because they're utilizing that for buying groceries at home in order to sustain them. And one of the advices I gave to them was, look at it from my angle, where I come from, what I have done, and you are able to do the same if you put your heart and soul into it. So make sure that you budget accordingly, according to what you get from an allowance perspective. Ensure that you have that travel allowance, including what you will utilize from a grocery perspective at home, because you do need to live. But look at the bigger vision. Do not be short-sighted. Look at what will become of you once you complete the program. And they did. And I'll also give you an example of a girl that completed a program about 5 years ago. And she would walk from Hyde Park to Tembisa, and that's about 40 kilometers each and every day. Whoa. And I remember speaking to her and saying, it doesn't matter who sees you walking. It's about the journey that you will complete then thereafter. And she's now working as a software tester. 5 years later, she has built a home for her family, drives a car. So stories like that are really touching, and you see them growing from a certain level to the other.
Thank you. Thank you, Prudence. And tell us, who are the role models of leadership that you've encountered in your own journey that you would recommend future leaders should study and learn from?
Yes, so I think there's a variety of them, but I'll just name a few. So within our group, Dynamic Technologies, I'd say Chris Wilkins, who's the Chief Executive Officer of the group. You also have Amanda Dambuza, who is a CEO at Uyandiswa. You know, people like that inspire you, where they started and where they are currently, but also their humility as they have been doing this for years, but still are able to sit you down, give you advice, and still want nothing but the best for the future leaders themselves.
And Prudence, how can our listeners get hold of you, and where should they follow you?
Yes, so they can get a hold of us on different social media platforms. On LinkedIn, they can look for Prudence Mabitsela or Dynamic DNA. Alternatively, they can look for Prudence Mabitsela 1 on Twitter. They can also find us on www.dynamicdna.co.za. Email address is prudence@dynamicdna.co.za. Telephone number 011-759-5940.
And last but not least, Prudence, is there one piece of advice that you would really like to convey to future leaders that they should implement in their own life?
100%. So I would say work hard. I am one person that hardly ever sleeps, purely because I feel that if you are wandering or your mind is wandering a lot, it's best to just be productive. So utilize the idling time in order to be productive and build up your own life, to be more successful, whether it is at school or within your own business.
Well, Prudence, thank you so much for sharing your insights and your wisdom into the future of leadership and reminding us that the human element is so important, especially today.
Thank you very much, Dr. Nik. Thank you so much for having me.